In the initial stages of the project, our group focused on industries that were being affected by COVID-19. One of the main groups that we were curious about was rideshare drivers. So initially, we started by just looking into Uber drivers. We then transitioned into also considering Lyft drivers. And finally, our customer segment was open to account for the more general rideshare drivers in the Ann Arbor area.
Our initial problem statement was rideshare drivers are held responsible for the finances of maintenance, sanitation, and gas of their vehicles out of their own pocket. This results in drivers having to take a cut from their own revenue to ensure future potential revenue through ratings of future riders. As the project went on, our problem statement evolved to the point where we decided we wanted to focus on sanitation, so we got rid of the maintenance and gas portion of a problem statement, as well as we wanted to focus on safety and health, so we got rid of the future potential revenue through ratings of riders and decided to focus on safety and health, resulting in our final problem statement of rideshare drivers are held responsible for the finances of sanitation of their vehicles out of their own pocket. This results in drivers having to unfairly take a cut from their revenue to ensure their own safety and health.
In the initial interviews, the questions we asked the drivers were more broad and general. Some of them included things like what they felt was the most difficult aspect of being a rideshare driver was, if safety was a concern of theirs while driving, what are some risks associated with their job that people might not be aware of, and what is something that COVID-19 affected about their job that they didn't anticipate. In regards to the first question, we received the following responses.
Overall, talk about the hardest aspect of the job, I would say, like, what trumps everything would be basically the expenses, like the wear and tear and the cost.
Right.
And the expenses in general.
The most? Well, all my riders pretty. I never had any problems. I guess just keep my car clean.
We took both of these responses from Hoda and Richard as stepping stones for the next iterations of interviews.
During the first couple rounds of interviews, we were able to reach out to 10 different rideshare drivers and ask them our initial interview questions. Some patterns we noticed after these initial 2 rounds of interviewing were centered around the costs, sanitation, and safety of the drivers. Specifically, the patterns that we noticed were that there is a current reduction in the income of rideshare drivers because people are not using rideshare services as frequently during the pandemic. Vehicle maintenance costs are the sole responsibility of the driver. The hourly income of a rideshare driver is below the minimum wage. Riders expect several amenities available during the ride, but do not tip accordingly. And if there is a malfunction with the rideshare apps, there is very little support available. Whatever app support is available is very inefficient, which results in a loss of time and income for the drivers. We used these trends that we discovered from the answers that rideshare drivers gave us to make our problem statement more specific and to narrow down our interview questions for the next round. We used the next set of interview questions to help us acquire information more centered around our new problem statement.
At the end of our research, we had 25 different interviews. We noticed that the first interviews were not very specific and lacked an actual problem. As a result, for our final interviews, we wanted to make sure that the questions were very specific and focused on problems surrounding car sanitation and financial burdens on rideshare drivers. So, for example, one of the questions that we would ask was, do you work part-time or full-time? Through this question, we noticed that full-time drivers were more likely to be concerned by health risks and safety measures of the Uber system. Also, drivers who depended on the rideshare as their full-time income had more of a problem with paying for cleaning supplies because, again, that is their full income. Overall, with these changes, our final question strengthened our problem. After reviewing our interviews and research, we decided to classify this problem as a go. This is a very big problem, especially during the pandemic, where many of these drivers are risking their lives for their income, and because they are not considered essential workers, they are not being helped by the rideshare companies. It's very important for them to have resources that will help with their cleaning supplies expenses so that they are not taken out of their own pocket, and also so that they are not working even more just to maintain their jobs. However, unfortunately, our problem does not have a viable solution in the scope of this class because our problem takes outside source connections or having to partner with cleaning supply businesses. We also have to do a lot of networking and marketing overall, and it's going to take a lot of time to get the process going before the solution is solved.